And he had this famous saying about looking after the whole world except our own. He didn't try out, he didn't come from college, he didn't come from whatever Shvatyor we Mekarev him from. He didn't grow up, Shabbes and mitzvahs, etc. But he deserved the attention.
Welcome everyone to the podcast HalachaU. The purpose of this podcast is to bridge the gap between Rabbanim and Mashpia and the Anash community. I am doing this with my friend Rebbe Bassman, who is the Menahel of several Halacha and Chassidic projects.
Thank you, Levi. Baruch Hashem is a schus that I have the exposure to many prestigious Rabbanim and Mashpia who are often not given a proper platform. This podcast, HalachaU, will give a voice to these Rabbanim and Mashpia to share their thinking, their hashkafa, Chassidis, a deep dive into their backstory to help uplift the entire community.
Please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing, because that helps the algorithm bring it to more people, which changes lives and brings Mashiach.
Rabbi Weinberg. Kol Hashvi and Chavivin. We're now in the Yud Shvat mode. This is our 7th interview of our HalachaU podcast, and there's the shtalshlus of all the Shiva Royim. So we'll treat you with respect like one of the Royim, because that's what we're actually here. We're here to, as we learned in our last podcast from HaRav Gedalia Oberlander, in the role post Gimel Tammuz, as we're preparing for Yud Shvat. And again, if anything I'm going to say you disagree with, it's an open mic over here. But what the Rabbanim and the Mashpia are suggesting to us is that the role of the Mashpia and the Rav post Gimel Tammuz is even more important and more highlighted. And I think perhaps as we're preparing for Yud Shvat, the koyach that the Rebbe gives his mushpoyim comes through the Rabbanim and the Mashpiyim as well. So we're excited to be able to have this long form conversation with one of the special Mashpiyim in Lubavitch. So HaRav Levi Weinberg lives in Johannesburg, South Africa. He's a Rov and a Kollel and a Mashpia and a Shliach and a mentor to many. I personally had the schus to be chavrusa with one of his sons for a year in Toronto, and his son Zevi as well was a mentor for me when I first came into Masifta. Rabbi Chaikin connected us, so I got already almost 20 years ago. I already had the schus to have some klisheni hashpa from HaRav Weinberg, but Shmai Heilich Lefanov. He has a very unique smicha program that I heard from many of my chavedim and colleagues that it's one that not all Talmidim pass. So it's a challenging one. If you got smicha from Rabbi Weinberg, it means a lot. He as well has a unique series on Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson's website, going through many of the Lamites Malachas, merging his expertise in halacha and psak with a very unique approach to merging it with Chassidis and mysticism as well. More recently, he's a Magid Shir in Kollel Rabbanei Chabad, one of the inspirations for Kollel Rabbanei Chabad. So, Agresin Yasher Kayach for joining us today. I wanted to start with the topic of a Rav and a Mashpia role, and kind of hear from the Rav, how he personally helps Bal Habatim grow from their infancy, but even beyond their infancy, to continue growing and inspiring others to grow beyond just teach. If you know Aleph, teach Aleph, but like how do you inspire people to continue growing even beyond just after they become a Shomer Shabbos?
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to Anash, and particularly those involved in the rogechover program and in the various programs of Halacha and Chassidic, which are very, very impressive. May they continue.
Amen.
Involving Jungeleit, Mishpoches, in continuing to grow in the Yiddishkeit once they passed go. They were already Niskarev, they're already perhaps themselves B'nai Yeshiva, the B'nai Torah, they've learned, and maybe Chassidic Jungeleit as well. But now they're Bal Habatim. So how do we augment and complement their growth in Chassidishkeit, in Yiddishkeit Bechlal, beyond just holding on to whatever they got in yeshiva or in their initial inspiration to Yiddishkeit? So here in Johannesburg, we've had quite a number of Rabbonim who are themselves very good role models in developing Bal Habatim into a Kehilla. Now I'm going to go in two directions here. One is more Kehilla oriented, and the other one is Chassidish oriented. So, issue number one, creating an awareness within Jungeleit men, women, that they don't live just for themselves. They are part of a greater whole. That greater whole, of course, is Klal Yisrael, but on a more local level, the greater whole is the Kehilla al-Asar. You know, very often you have people who, because of the influence of the Rebbe, they think globally. And they're out from Mitzrayim and being Mekarev and Shliches. But the one thing which is not focused on as much among Anash is the building of a local Kehilla. So we had a Rov here, Rabbi Tanzer Olav Sholem, actually from a Chassidic Obstam. He stemmed from Chassidim. He developed one of the biggest Orthodox Kehillas, no, the biggest Orthodox Kehilla in Johannesburg. Not necessarily the biggest shul. There were shuls with greater memberships, but those greater memberships were often 3-day-a-year Yidden or Yom Tov Yidden, but not Kehilla Yidden Mamish. Rabbi Tanzer Olav Sholem developed a Kehilla of Yidden on the spot, hundreds and hundreds of people being mispalled 3 times a day, every day, and he developed them into integral parts of the Kehilla. For example, we have here organizations like the Chevra Kadisha, which is not just Gemilas Chesed Shel Emes, Tares, and Levayis, etc., although that's a very important function. But it goes far beyond that into community institutions. Thousands of people are helped financially, socially, all kinds of ways that a Kehilla can help an individual. Who runs it? People who were groomed by this Rov to be participants in Kehilla life.
But we don't have a lot of training with that.
Sorry?
We don't have a lot of training on how to do that. where could this training come from? And do we have internal tools?
The reason we don't have it is because our best koiches, especially in the Rebbe's generation, went on shlichus. So the local Kehilla wasn't addressed as much. What happened was that if a shaliach started a Chabad house and he was Makarib people, and we have to remember that in the 60s and the 70s, shlichus consisted of nishomas, not minyonim, binyonim, but nishomas. That was the success of a shliach. He found that neshama, usually in those days, 60s, 70s, the neshama was a man, a young woman, a student, and he was makarev him, her, to Yiddishkeit. Now, eventually, there was enough of an aggregation of these neshomas that they formed a local kehillah in the Chabad house. And now you needed someone to address their needs as kehillah members. But by and large, I couldn't say that 770 looked at itself as a kehillah. There's the Rebbe, that's what it is. And everything was focused on it and lived around that Rebbe light. And there wasn't much in the way of Kehillah building.
So our training is going to come from Rabbi Tanzer?
Who's the training going to come from? It comes from awareness. We're talking about Chabad, right? So the first step in doing anything is the awareness of the importance and the chashivas. You probably remember the famous saying of the old Rov of Kfar Chabad, Reb Shnei Gareli Kollel Vasholem. Atomim from the first mimim of Lubavitch. And he became a Rov of Kfar Chabad already about 80. And he had this famous saying about looking after the whole world except our own. He didn't fry out, he didn't come from college, he didn't come from whatever Shvatyor we mekarev him from, he didn't. He grew up, he was a Shema Shabbes and a Shema Mitzvahs, etc. But Afal Pisha Loichoto, he deserves the attention. He deserved the Simas Lev.
This podcast is sponsored by Smichas Chaver Chabad, HalachaU, and Women's Halacha Circle. In over 100 communities around the world, Halacha for everyone. Halacha curriculum that we provide for your community to teach the halachas, to engage people in halacha, to make halacha interesting. We have Smichas Chaver Chabad for Anash communities. For those that have a yeshiva background, we have HalachaU, which are advanced courses being taught in Chabad houses around the world. For those that don't have a yeshiva background but want serious, roll up your sleeve learning, super engaging, take them through the journey of the halacha down to the super, super practical. Every 6 months is a new topic. After Pesach, we are starting the sugya of workplace halachas, the laws of ribbis, the laws of baltolin, paying your workers on time, and the laws of yichud. Fascinating sugyas. We have it on various levels for those that have a yeshiva background, those that don't have a yeshiva background, for women as well. Check out SCP-Chabad.org or HalachaU.org. Click join to schedule a meeting with me to learn more. Did we find the Rebbe discussing this balance? You know, not a lot of sichas come to mind. Again, I'm not such a buggy.
The Rebbe was focused on what was a chiddush, getting out of here, getting out of what called the blotta of 770. There was a shaliach who came back from Tunis, and life in Tunis was a shrek. When he came back, he came to my mother, Aleh Shalom, to borrow a like a thing for the baby, a border crib. And he's describing what it was like. He gave a dugma that a hospital in Tunis looked like 676. Now, I don't know if you remember 676 because it came before 1414, came before 749, came before all that. It was the dormitory kitchen of 770. So stellt sich vor, if you want a description of a hospital in a real third world country, the hospital room looked be'erech like 676. Now this shaliach came back after many years of shlichus in Tunis, and he went through a lot. For example, they once printed a thought for the week in Arabic in blue ink on white paper, and he was called in on a charge of being Zionistic, blue and white, kachol lavan. So there were all kinds of stuff that he had to live through, Schwierigkeiten, and finally he had to get out. He had 24 hours and he had to get out. So the Rebbe spoke in a siche on a Yom Tov, a second day Yom Tov, Tov Shin Chof, I think Chof Dalet. I was a kid. I just remember the tzir more than the specifics. So the Rebbe said, "Gekommen walgenen sich in die Blotte von 770." You came to wallow in the mud of 770. It was very apt because there was such a downpour, and the sukkah was in the yard of 770. This was really the blotte of 770. So the Rebbe Tanya, are you talking? You came back to wallow in the mud of 770. So the Rebbe was focused on getting people out there. We forget how hard it was for the Rebbe to drive the idea of shlichus through. So the Rebbe wasn't looking to build Lubavitch Kehilla. However, there certainly were, in the course of years, different hoiroes on the Kehilla building. For example, the Rebbe wrote a sharp letter to Kfar Chabad that he heard that the oilom in the Kfar has this minig of making kiddush after davvening, men making kiddush after davvening on a Shabbes, and verbringen bis minche. So they davened minche, then they went home. You can understand that through the Shabbos for the mishpacha was long over. By the way, I remember that there was this vort that went around when the Rebbe verbringed until Shkia time in the winter, and the oilam finished with minche. By the time the oilam got home, it was already Motzei Shabbos. So the word that went around was that Lubavitch is the only place where you can have a cigarette with your cholent. By the time you ate the cholent, it was Motzei Shabbos. But the Rebbe wrote a sharp letter to Kfar Chabad that he heard that people make kiddush and then if I bring till the end of Shabbos, the family get lost, so the Shabbos get lost, and it's not a seder. In Russia, it was necessary. The Fabrengen was what held people in the face of the Nisyonists. But here, the women are on the same page with the men. They didn't say that in the letter, but we know that the women often were on a completely different page from the men, the Tmimim. They went to public schools, and they had a very different values. It was all that Tomim could do to hold on to whatever he had, despite the mishpocha sometimes. Of course, this is not a generalization. There were many families in which the women were together with the men in their Mesiras Nefesh, in the face of the Evstekti, etc. But Farbrengen was a lifeline. But that's not the case here, said the Rebbe. And therefore, you should be going home and Farbrengen Take with the Mishpoche. Now, that's building a Mishpoche by Mishpoche, a Kehilla. There's none of this going off by yourself and machen Shabbes for sich and never mind everybody else. You can't have that.
You're reminding me of a comment that you shared with us in Kollel Rabboni Chabad. I don't want to get you in trouble for this, but you shared it publicly, so I'll maybe you can clarify it further. You spoke about not mixing the role of a Rov and a Mashpia, and the ICS you're speaking now sound more like coming from a Rov, in the sense of the way a Kehilla is supposed to be established in a good Litvish community. There's law and order, and you come on time and you go on time. You spoke about not mixing the roles of a Rov and Mashpia. Maybe you can talk to that a little bit again and clarify some of that, because it sounds to me like this might be in one of those areas of conflict potentially.
For starters, I'm quoting a letter of the Rebbe to Kfar Chabad. So this is not quite Rabbonish. But as a matter of fact, I think that what was axiomatic, Adover Aposhet, Amol, was the fact that Anash in Ashtetl were meuchad. They were united. They were united not only by their hiskashrus to the Rebbe, but by their life together as kind of a larger mishpoche. Now you may remember the Hayoim Yoim, where the Rebbe Marash asked the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek, was hat Seide gewollt mit Darke Chassidis und was hat gewollt mit Chassidis? What did he want? What did he want to accomplish with Darke Chassidis and with Torah Chassidis? So we'll leave alone the Torah Chassidis part and focus on the Darke Chassidis. What the Alter Rebbe wanted with Darke Chassidis is that Chassidim should be united like one mishpoche b'yavo al pi HaTorah. The al pi HaTorah is a very polite way, a euphemistic way of saying, don't let the mishpochedikait go beyond the boundaries of tznius. We shouldn't be so chummy with the other mishpoche that the lady of the house is also a pesachaverte. So we have to respect the boundaries of tznius, but al pi HaTorah, we should be together, zusammen geknippt, zusammen gebunden, like one mishpoche. And that was the chaverschaft of Anash in Ashtetl. People knew what's going on with each other. They knew each other's problems. They knew each other's needs. You may remember the famous story which was printed in one of the early journals of Chabad in America in the 1930s. So it was a story about a Chassidic non-law and order. And the story was that there was this shtibel where talking was the way it went, and people talked to each other during davvening, before davvening, whenever, And it was a bull session. Now, they made a takona one day, nothing doing. Can't be. So they made a strict takona, nobody should talk. And during davening, we daven and nothing else. A short while later, people noticed things are going wrong. This one's sick and this one's going broken, this one's... So they can't understand what happened. So they came to realize that when people shmooze, they discovered what's happening with each other. This one needs the help with that refuah, so people got together and they helped. And this one needs help with a gemach for personally and for his business. And they got together and they provided a gemach. But when people stopped davening, nobody realized that there's a need. So the need grew and festered until it became a catastrophe, Rahman al-Islam. So they untakoned the previous takonah, and someone got up on the beam and said, whatever you need to talk about your fellow chevre Anash, talk. We should remain bound together. I'm not saying that it's a great idea for everybody to talk during davening. The Alter Rebbe rails against it in Igeres HaKodesh. But the idea that we need to be involved with each other, in each other's lives, as a group from whether it's a shtetl, whether it's a neighborhood, a kehilla of some kind.
This podcast is sponsored by Kollel Dach. Revolutionize your limud Chassidus. Join over 200 shluchim and anash that are taking their limud Chassidus to the next level. In Kollel Dach, you have expert mashpiim, Rabbi Asher Farkash, Rabbi Yosef Klein, Rabbi Yitzchak Coffin, numerous guest mashpiim that learn Chassidus in a unique way, broken up by sugyas. Every 2-3 months, we take a new sugya and we dissect it from its haskalah to its avodah, level by level, for bringing on the sugya, discussing the avodah aspects of the sugya, the practical application of the sugya. Schedule a conversation today with the Menahel or Paltiel and learn Chassidus like you have never done before.
You'll notice in the Rishima about Rebbe Avram Yimis in Atomim that where did it come from? Hommel. That there was this feeling of Anash of Hommel coming to the Rebbe to Tzemach Tzedek, and there's the koch that all of the people from Hommel going to Yechidus yet, and they're going to bring afterwards. There's a certain larger family kind of feeling. And that included Poshet. It included the needs of what a community has to have, whether it's kashrus, whether it's a beis yisoimim, whether it's botei, whatever it is. We've got to attend to our needs. Okay, that's what I'm talking about in Kehilla building, maybe from a Rabbonish point of view. Partly Rabbonish, partly Chassidish. The Chassidish side of it is knowing what's going on with our children. Ploini ben Ploini has a teenager. Ber kuktachum of him. Who's paying attention to him? How's he doing? Not to muster him, but to pay attention to see what are the kid's needs, what are his chushim, where can he be steered, can he be helped with his learning, going to a yeshiva, maybe he can't afford it, whatever it is, what's going on with our kids. And that's the Ruchni type of family. Now, part of building a Kehilla is picking up on people's abilities, people's talents, and co-opting those talents where a person shines best, where he shines most. The Mayav is Zohir Tvei. Where does he shine most? In lending those talents toward helping each other and building in that way, building a Kehilla. Like I said before, you have people who are great at fundraising, enlist them for the needs of the Kehilla, for the Gemilas Chesed, for whatever. There are people who are great at teaching, get them involved in giving a shiur. There are people who are great at organizing and community events. Good. Let them be there so that Ayutas Kista Fabrengen is done mit Hand and mit Fies, and people know about it and they come and they're attracted to it. So get people's talents on board, not just when it comes to money. So the kind of feeling of belonging and being part of a Kehilla is built from the enlisting and the co-opting of people in their particular field.
You're saying that's how you help them grow. You're going back to that's
sure.
So you find their individual talents.
Now, a further Chassidic kind of building, Kehilla building, this is more shaykh to the Mashpia department. The Frierdiker Rebbe, beginning of Tovshin Hay, I'm not sure the date, suffered a severe stroke. They say that it's because a letter slipped through the censorship around the Frierdiker Rebbe where they wanted to protect him because of his fragile health from shmooze, rois, which were coming through after the Milchama. It wasn't yet after the Milchama, but things were coming through. So there was a very strong censorship around the Frierdiker Rebbe that he shouldn't get news of tragedies. But this particular letter slipped through. Why do they think it was that? Because when the Frierdiker Rebbe was found after his stroke, this letter saying that, who was it? Reb Chacher Fagin and the Reb, who was it in charge of Achois Tatmimim? Also very geschmackiyid, and others were in a shul in Riga when the Nazis, Yimach Shimon, burned it down with them inside it. And that was the letter that they found next to the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the understanding was that that's what led to the stroke. Bekitzer, the Frierdiker Rebbe wasn't well for quite a while. After Tishrei, he wrote a letter to the Hanhola, meaning all the Malamdim, Mashpiim, Mashgichim of Tomchet Mimin. In it, he said that I wanted to meet with you in person, but unfortunately, circumstances being what they are, I can't meet with you, and therefore I'm writing you this letter in the place of that meeting. And there the Frierdiker Rebbe records a story of two types of Chassidim. One was Reb Nechemia Zalman of Shvenzian. He was the Chassid of the Alter Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe describes at length his stay there Hayoim. He used to come to Lubavitch for Shavuos and stay till around Rosh Hashanah time. So he would, in Russia, the daybreak is very early in summer. So he would get up after 2. He would toivel in a stream around 3. He would learn Chassidic and be mizboinin for 6 hours till about 9. He would then daven for about 6 hours till the afternoon. All this was in a little forest of sosna trees. I think they're berries, near Lubavitch. Toward the end of the afternoon, he would come back to his Tanya. He would have a bite. He would lay down. This is what he did for 40 years. Midday yoim beyoim moy, while he was in Lubavitch. That was his state of avodah. So the Frierdiker Rebbe that he heard from the Rebbe Rashab, who heard back Doiris. I don't remember the specific stated who was Makabel from whom, but remember, Rebbe Nechemia Zalman was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe. So he heard that this is not the tachlis for which a neshama came down to this world. Very, very lofty, very gehoiden, but that's not the tachlis for which a neshama came down. What is the tachlis? So the Frierdiker Rebbe called on the names of 2 Chassidim. I don't think they were the Alter Rebbe's Chassidim. I think they were a bit later, but it's Tzemach Tzedek. Der Luziner Rov and the Druyer Melamed. The names I forget, and I'm not going to tell the whole story. It's all there printed in Sefer HaSichos Tov Shin Hey. And by now it must be printed in Igris as well.
You can get it in English
it's
also.
Unusual, huh?
You can get it in English also from Kahas. For those that need.
So the point was that this Rov and this Melamed, when they came to their specific places where they were, a Melamed or a Rov, they took a look and they saw that the Bal Habatim were not bad. They were pretty erlach, but they were prost. And they would stech each other and let go with imprecations against each other. And it was prost. So the Rebbe, Frierdiker Rebbe, mit der größter Savlonus, with the greatest of patience, the Luziner Rov went to work, and after a couple of years, he transformed the face of the town. The Grofkeit and the Prostkeit of the Bal Habatim was gone. There was an Edelkeit about their speech, about their comportment, about the way they interacted. That was his hashpah.
This podcast is sponsored by Kollel Rabbanei Chabad. Kollel Rabbanei Chabad is a community of experienced Rabbanim, aspiring Rabbanim, over 100 shluchim and anash from around the world, staying fresh in sugyas of community Rabbanos, learning over 8 to 10 hours a week, Gemara, Tur, Beis Yosef, Rosh Kollel, Sgan Rosh Kollel, senior poskim, follow-up, chavrusa placement, to be able to stay fresh in these sugyas and to learn not just shimush and practical psak, but also shimush in the room of Rabbanos. The Kollel has so far learned over the past 2 years the sugyas of Tvilas Kelim and Agalas Kelim, Hilchas Nida, and we're soon going to be starting Hilchas Mikvois, and you can join at any time. Schedule a conversation with the Rosh Kollel today at kollel.rabbanei-chabad.org. Let me ask you on that point. This is something that I've been discussing with some Mashpiim over the last couple of weeks. These lofty standards of Chassidus, you're talking about building a Kehilla and raising the bar. So there's almost like the way we approach the beginner with avoisois ava, but it seems like once we were handling with unzera, we go back to our perfection standards, and if someone's not, an A or a B, he changes the color of his shirt or his this or his that, then he's not punktlich the way, to the T. We go back to that rigid, high level standard of Chassidus, and the argument of the perfectionists is that, well, unsere Kinder, they need we can't have exposure to the outside world. It's one thing if you're dealing with non-religious, but once we're with the religious, we have these high standards, and we have this high level of rigidity. How do you find the balance of going from this overflowing, bubbly love that we give to beginners to those that are a little bit uncomfortable to apply that level of openness to unzera?
If instead of looking at it as becoming rigid and inflexible once someone is on the inside, instead of looking at it that way, how about if we looked at it as this person has grown up? I have an anicle, takes a step, and wow, what applause, gewaldig, he took a step, he fell down after one step, but he got up and he took another step, and he zeichet zu sagen, what a hero. Now imagine taking a 20, 30, 40-year-old and applauding him because he took a step. Would it be a compliment or an insult? I had this girl who came to my shul. She was a girl from a mishpacha which was niskarev to Lubavitch. She grew up already in a Chassidic family. She came to shul very inappropriately dressed. She's the girl, 13, 14. She lived a few blocks from shul. So I said to her, go home, ask your mother to give you something that's more for a Chassidic girl, especially for shul, and come back. That night I get a visit from her mother. We came to Chabad because Chabad is non-judgmental. They accepted us as we were dressed and as we spoke. All of a sudden, Chabad changed. Well, what would you say to such a mother? Chabad changed?
You're paid the big bucks. That's why you have to have the answer to the question. I don't have the answer.
If I would answer according to my big bucks, I would keep quiet. What would you say? You're a member of Anash. Never mind Rov, never mind Mashpia, never mind anything. What would you say to such a mother?
Well, I think that question is actually, I would probably side more with the approach you took, but let me make the question a little more complicated. Let's say you're dealing with a dress code where it's not sneeze, it's just a Chassidic thing, where suddenly, someone puts on a brown belt, so he's not part of the elite club. In other words, in Lubavitch, to be like on the inner circle, there's so many boxes you have to check, and it makes it more challenging to be a good Litvish bacher. Like, it's easier, so to speak. As soon as someone, does a little, his chitzonius changes a little bit, suddenly he's looked at differently. That makes it so much harder to draw in our youth and our Bal Habatim to these very high standards of Chassidischkeit. this is what people are saying. So when it comes to frumkeit, your short your skirt is significantly too short or whatever, short sleeves. I get that. But when it comes to like more levels of modernity and that's where I think I would have more challenge dealing with that.
There's something about Edelkeit and Prostkeit which takes a sensitivity. I could not expect someone being niskarev to have that Edelkeit. Adarab, if he or she started dressing like a Chassid or like a Chassidic, I would say he has a problem. He's just playing the part. That's all. He's not pneumistic on the madrege that he wants to wear a gartel. What gartel? What weißt du von gartel? He saw Pliny as a gartel, so he has a gartel. I would tell him, take it easy with the gartel. You'll survive in the meantime without the gartel better than with the gartel. Why? Because Coldsman, you look different. Coldsman, you are culturally different. You're learning. You want to grow. You want to see what is it about Yiddishkeit and Chassidus that makes them do what they do and dress the way they dress, etc., etc. You all know the famous story with Manis Freidman with the leather jacket. I'm not going to repeat it.
What's the story?
No, this is
You can't
for real.
Tease us like that.
He showed up on Erevim Chabad with a leather motorcycle jacket.
Rabbi Friedman.
Manis Freidman, yeah. Because he was so sick and tired of the first question being, why do you wear the long black coat? And why do you wear the black belt? And why this and why that? So finally he said, okay, a motorcycle jacket, black leather, that's it. The rest of the story you can look up in his book. But it's such a clip that the first thing you see is the black coat. You can't see past it. Who is in the black coat? There's a story with the rogechover. You tell me if I'm talking too late, too long, too much, okay? For you, it's the seventh time. For me, it's the first. There's a story with the rogechover. The rogechover was one of two rabbonim in Dvinsk. One was the Rebbe Simcha, the Mechaber of Oz Sameach, and the other one was the rogechover. Rebbe Simcha was the Rov of the Ashkenazi Kehilla and the rogechover of the Chassidic Kehilla. So this mother once came to him and asked for a Yeshua, big problem. A whole week her baby takes the milk beautifully. Shabbes, the baby doesn't want a nurse. Amot Dach. So the rogechover told her, when you feed the baby on Shabbos, change into weekday clothes. Okay. So she does what the Rov said, comes back a few days later, Rebbe, a moifis, an absolute moifis. The baby ate on Shabbos, last Shabbos, a machaya. So, the rogechover didn't have a lot of patience. So we said, leave me alone with the moifis. It's the Gemara in Bava Kama. What does the Gemara in Bava Kama have to stay with a baby who doesn't want to eat on Shabbos? The Gemara says that you can have a Metzias of a muid l'Shabbos. A shoyra muid, which goes crazy, but only on Shabbos. So on Shabbos, he's the mu'id. But during the week, he's the asher tam. What's the chap? Every Shabbos, the whole town gets dressed in their Shabbos finery. This one put on a kapot, and that one a bekesh, and the third one a streimel. So the ox looks around. It's a whole new town. I don't know this town. So he goes crazy, and he gores, and he attacks these strange people. So on Shabbos, he's the mu'id, because everybody's a stranger. During the week, they're familiar, so he doesn't attack. Says the rogechover, I figured that if the ox, with its limited intelligence, doesn't recognize people when they change clothes from his tummy, the baby, with its limited intelligence, doesn't recognize its mother when she comes to feed him on Shabbos with a nice Shabbos robe. Who is this? Don't know her. So the baby doesn't want to eat. So I told her, put on her Shabbos clothes when she goes to feed the baby, and then the baby feels Hamish. This ability of taking a person and reducing him to the clothes that he wears, and that's the whole mahus of the person, is such a klippe. Whether it's good clothes or bad clothes, in other words, clothes that express a good way of life or the opposite, it's irrelevant. The fact that we get fixated on the look is the klippe. And the moment a Bal Tshuva starts to imitate the clothing of those around him without any hergish, without any idea of what they mean and what they're trying to accomplish, that's the day he's going to stop growing. He's into imitating, not growing, not learning, not understanding. He's going to become one of the insiders by imitating the insider. That's a tragedy.
So you don't have your Bal Habatim put on kapotis? You don't have your Bali Tshuva put on kapotis?
Eventually.
At what point? Where would you draw the line?
Und Tomer nicht,
I'm
nicht chatten.
So you prefer, well, if they're going to stop growing once they put on the kapota, then maybe they shouldn't.
That's when they came to the realization that it's not about putting on the kapot because everybody else puts on the kapot, but because these are big day Shabbos. And in Hilchos Shabbos it says that if you have nothing to change into on Shabbos, Yishalsul knof of lamato, drop your clothing, make them longer, because a worker wants short clothing. He doesn't want his clothes to get in the way. A nobleman, dafke wears long. That's the most basic thing in Hilchos Shabbos about big day Shabbos. Then there's the Chassidic ideas, whether it's gartel.
So do you think many shluchim are having the kapotas get on too quickly?
I'm not commenting on what other shluchim do. I'm telling you what I see happens when people ape their surroundings too early. The decision is left with the shaliach.
I think
that often there is a taive by a shliach that the guy with the kapot is his success story. How do I know? Because sometimes you'll find people talking about how many kapotis they have in their Chabad house. Aha! That tells me that with the counting kapotis, that the counting ki'ilu, how many nishomis were attracted to Chabad. So, yes, it's a taiva. It's a taiva like any success story is the taiva for a shliach. You want to say that shlichus succeeds. Anyhow, I'm not talking about the shluchim and what their particular styles are.
This podcast is sponsored by Kollel Aliba de Hilchasa, the brand new Kollel with the Rosh Kollel, HaRav Yaakov Goldstein, Sgan Rosh Kollel, Rav Menachem Rottenberg, Menahel Poyel, HaRav Mendel Weisfish, all active, experienced, Moide Hayra, follows an 8-year syllabus. Every 6 months is a new topic, broken up into subtopics. Until Pesach, we're learning the halachas of Hilchas Avelus and Bikur Cholim. After Pesach, we're learning workplace halacha, Hilchas Ribis, Hilchas Baltolin, and Hilchas Yichud. It's a serious learning Gemara, Shulchan Aruch inside. 3 hours a week of Chavrusa learning. Help find you a Chavrusa, set up a Chavrusa. And then there's 2 in-depth shiurim per week, 2 live shiurim per week. And it's serious learning. Someone that has a busy schedule, 3 to 5 hours a week. Schedule a conversation with the Menahel Poyel today at kollelad.com. Rebbe Levy's also in South Africa. We sent him to. He heard such good things. Rebbe Levy also has a question for you.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, we usually go for an hour and a half. If the Rav wants to go for 2 hours, it's okay also.
All right. You told me a beginning time, not an end time. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much what to talk about. It's endless. And if I may, I have something I want to comment on what you said. So are you saying, do you think that going on the other side of the coin from birth, do they have the opposites where you would treat them like they are adel and they have expectations of them? Like if they're from birth, like where's the line?
I would hope that you could expect more from somebody who grew up in an edele mishpoche and an edele svive. I would hope that you can expect more from him than you can expect from somebody who was living on a college campus last term.
Right. So I'm asking the question because also from experience, from my surroundings, I definitely, yes, there are more exposed, Bal Teshuvos are more exposed to Klipa, but unfortunately, I guess you'd be surprised how much both in lack of doing stuff that are Chassidic or doing the opposite of Chassidishkeit, or how much influence there is from the outside world and not to mention not a healthy family environment, like if the parents are not together or there's always fighting in the house. All these things contribute to a lot of kids feeling isolated, and the point is that they don't feel that they should go into that category where they have that expectation. I think that's why they're being failed in the system. Does that make sense?
The last words again. They don't feel that they should be in the category.
In the category where there's an expectation of them to be more than the category of Bal Tshuva. That's why it was a very sensitive question. Like you asked, I don't know if you were asking me too, about the story of the girl. I think I would say it's subjective to the case. It's very individualized to who we're talking about, because I wouldn't say that if you are from birth, you're expected more. That's basically my point. But I wanted to know what you think about that. It sounds like you're not aware that there are such people who are struggling even though they're from births.
I've heard that there are Chassidim in Antarctica who don't put on the Rabbeinu Tams. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite aware of what's happening in our own circles as well. However, I still think that if we talk down to somebody, let's say a Hasidic teenager who's having a yerida, and he's not switched on, and he's looking at the big world and enviously, when am I going to wear patched jeans? if we talk down to such a guy and say, you know what, I'm really proud of you that you put on film every day. We're insulting him. We're telling that kid, really, you're already on the outside. You don't measure up. But I'll treat you ki'ilu. I'm going to clap because you took a big step. It's an insult. It's not a compliment. It's not a kiru. What you could say is, I know the nisyonis that you go through. And in my day, they weren't so difficult. So I can't say what I would do in your position. So I recognize your difficulties. But I think that you're capable of rising above them. And if you need help, there's a chaver, there's a mashpia, there's an oil, there's a settle, there's whatever. But what I hope for you and what I wish for you is not that you should be as good as the guy who was just introduced to Yiddishkeit by some shliach on a campus for a Chabad house. What I hope for you is that you see things as they are be'emes.
Isn't this kid,
And leave alone the black belt and the brown belt, and that's not.
isn't this kid asking for love? That's the main thing. In other words, forget about the short skirt for the girl. She wants attention. She's been ignored since she was a kid. In other words, forget about, should the first line of action be to try to get her to go home and change her skirt? Or should we realize?
Yeah, I gave her attention. I didn't go over to any other girl. She's the girl that got the attention.
Negative attention. She got negative attention. Today, in other words, today there's a notion that people are extra sensitive. Do you agree that more the tough love is the way to go?
I think no. I'm not talking about tough love. And number one, I don't believe it works. Number two, I personally, I'm not the type to give tough love. It's there's a certain smugness about tough love. I'm okay. I've got it. So I'll tell you where you are lacking. There's something about that which is very un-Chassidish. A Chassid that he hurts when he sees that the child of a fellow Chassid in town, he's slipping. It hurts, but tough love is that. Okay, I don't want to go there. The ikir is that we cannot equalize our expectations of everybody. What we expect of a child is not what we expect of an adult. An adult is not what we expect of a child. What we expect of a Bal Tshuva is not what we expect of someone who grew up saying every single day brachas and krishma and learning from morning till afternoon, at least learning Torah. So I expect more. I expect more sensitivity, more edelkeit. And for him, this is not me. This is Tanya, Perek Chavtes, Perek Lamed, where the Alter Rebbe says that in order to achieve the bitush and Nahoira de la Solag Gufa de la Solag be Nahoira de Nishmosa, Mevachinle, you have to crush that goof which doesn't catch fire. How do you crush it? So one of the methods, said the Alter Rebbe, is you should have in mind what it says in Pirkei Avos, Havei shfal ruach b'fnei kol adam. And who's kol adam? Afilo lifnei kal shebekalim. And the Alter Rebbe spent the whole Perek making a cheshbon that you're not just thinking I'm going to pretend that I'm lower than the Kal Shabakalim. You really are. Like the guy who went to the shrink because he had an inferiority complex. So he comes back and his friend asked him, "No, did he help?" So he said, "Yeah, he showed me how you don't only have an inferiority complex. I'm really inferior." So the Alter Rebbe tells the guy who's looking in Tanya, "Vevei shval ruach lifnei even akal shebekalim is not like some Meforshim say machdach. Make yourself pretend that you're lower than akal shebekalim. Vevei be'emes lamitoi." Why?
In the introduction, you're bringing up another important topic that we wanted to discuss. I forgot to mention one of the most important projects that you worked on, which was translating the lessons in Tanya. Can you tell us a little bit about, you're talking about Tanya and Shval Ruach. Can you tell us about the Maisa that you had with your brother, Shalom Ber, and the correspondence you had in Chassidus, and how that led to a minor from the Rebbe? And I guess what do you enjoy more, learning halacha or learning Chassidus? Where's your bigger passion?
My Rosh Yeshiva is I have to learn with Bochrim Nigles. I learn Nigle. If I have to give a shir Chassidus, I learn Chassidus. If I have to give a shir in Kollel, Halacha, etc., etc., etc. So you want to know my personal preference?
Yeah.
My nafkamina. I'm me, you're you. As the Rebbe said, that rogechover answered somebody who asked him, "No, Rashi, Rabbi Netam, argue about film. You probably know the real answer. What do you do?"
I'll tell you why I'm asking that question, although it's a side question, because for me, and I think others have a similar struggle. The Rebbe asks so much from us Chassidim to do this and that and the other, and sometimes we feel we have to love it all, and it's okay to have a personal passion. I guess I just want I want others to hear, it's okay to have a preference.
Saves some for Kabbalah Soul. You love it all. Kabbalah Soul goes out the window. So some things you don't have to love as much, but you do it because the Rebbe said to do it, and I'm a chassid and I listen. So not everything has to be with such gewaltige love. When you're learning Rambam Hilchas Kilayim, could be that you don't love it as much as when you learn a shtikal Likkutei Torah or a shtikal Samach Vov. Could be, yeah, but you do it because the Rebbe said to do it.
What was the story with you and your brother and the correspondence regarding the Inyan Chassidus? Your father sent into the Rebbe your correspondence with your brother on Maimer and Tufshin Hay.
It happened a few times. My father, Olav Shalom, had a shita that the Rebbe likes to hear things about the life of Anash Minatzad, not official reports. Aduch, Reb David Raskin, soll haben a lichtigen Ganeden. Oyo batwoche Rabum, ufwoge, umayum, and ateva legamre. Okay, nice, but the Rebbe likes to hear Minatzad unofficially, like Mesiach Levitumoi. So when there were two mice, I'm not sure which one you heard. One, I was learning Hemshach Rosh Hashanah Tovshin Gimel by Reb Yoel in Ocean Parkway. This was Tovshin Lamedalet. And over there in Ois, Yudalef Yud Beis, he goes into Koyach and Yechoiles, which one is closer to Nefesh and which is the Nefesh further from. And it looks very paradoxical. This Yechoiles, it's closer in Inyan to Nefesh. But nefesh is further from yecholes than from koyach. It looks paradoxical. So I wrote my brother, Shalom Ber, who then became a shaliach in Kansas City, Missouri, in Tovshin Chov Test. He wrote me back. I asked him a kasha, and he answered me back. It went back and forth 7, 8 times until my father saw the whole correspondence, each one with what he wrote and with the answer from the other. He took the whole pekel, must have been already about 10, 15 pages, sent it in to the Rebbe. And he wrote that he thinks that the Rebbe will have nachas. And the Rebbe answered, Kedarke b'kodesh, from the words of the zettel, Goram. My father had written, I think, sheyigroim nachas ruach, so the Rebbe made from sheyigroim goram, and nachas ruach, the Rebbe added rav, and underlined it, I think, twice. Goram nachas ruach rav, and he added, u'mehatayimim bozeh, sheshoklu v'toru b'da'ach. There's this back and forth discussion about Chassidis. V'hirotzoin sheyiye gor v'amo. Now, for the Rebbe, that was an unusual expression. By the Frierdiker Rebbe, it's hard to go by a page in Likkutei Diburim where the Frierdiker Rebbe doesn't talk about amo. By the Rebbe, it wasn't Amadbeya Hamalechas. He didn't talk about mole. But here it was. V'hirotzen sheyiyeh gor v'amo. In other words, like my father's time in yeshiva, my brother's time in yeshiva, when Mr. gekocht and Chassidis, that was the conversation. Okay, that was one time. Another time was many years later. I was in Johannesburg already, and my third son was just born on Yud Gimel of. So this is the Wachnacht before his bris. We just got the mimer of Kate Tzom Lachoishach. It's atif and mimer, beautiful. So I spent the whole night of the Wachnacht going over the mimer again and again and again. It was wow. So my brother got the mimer Weistois later. Then it came out in New York, and later then I got it in Johannesburg. So he wrote, my father, Olav Sholem, I just got hold of the Maimer Case Tzom Lachoishach, and finally I understand why you, in other words, he's saying to my father, why you are so wow about this Maimer, and why Levi writes that he spent the whole Wachnach going over it. And again, my father took this and gave it in to the Rebbe. Because, you know, a lot of times the Rebbe was upset that the Olam is not into the Rebbe's Torah. Tzichos, Mamorim. There were some very painful tzichos. So he wanted the Rebbe to see. Again, Mashiach Levi Tumoy, that Anash are talking to each other in the mishpocha, that they're into it. And once again, the Rebbe responded with a strong lotion of nachas ruach. I don't know what the lotion was, but now you can find it printed in Manis. So My son was born in Tov Shin Nun Aleph, so you can look it up. Minus Kodesh Tov Shin Nun Aleph Ov.
Hey friends, hope all is well. If you haven't heard about Jump Into Shape, let me tell you a little something about Jump Into Shape. Jump Into Shape is an online fitness program where you can work out in a sneeze environment, in the comfort of your home, wherever you are, if you're traveling. And we have all kinds of different workouts, from cardio with jump roping, weighted jump ropes, we have Pilates, we have pelvic, we have weights, we have stability ball. There's so many options, and we have so many programs, set programs, and custom programs. Really, anything you need to get moving, to get exercising. And top of it all, I'll tell you the best part is we hold you accountable and we motivate you to make sure that you get the best workout you can. Everyone, I give you many, many blessings that you invest in your health from now until 120.
Did you follow that practice of your father to continue sending in personal things to the Rebbe?
Me, if I saw something that I thought the Rebbe would have nachas from, I would send it to my father. He should give it in. I'm not going to give it in. I'm not.
Do you still correspond with your brother in Chassidus? Is that a...
Yeah, but nowadays correspondence doesn't usually take the form of written letters. When was the last time you wrote somebody a letter and send it in the mail?
Right. So tell me about the process of writing lessons in Tanya. How did that work? Did you have correspondence with the Rebbe, writing the translation?
Okay, you realize this is a major segue from the issue of Kehillas and Taflav.
We're going a little lighter.
Going lighter. Okay. So what's the question? Shurim and Tanya.
How did you get involved in writing lessons? I mean, since when the Lubavitcher Bachram know how to write English? Like, how did you get into that?
Oh, there's influences from the outside. So I loved language. I loved to read. I loved to write. I dreamt about being a writer. So I learned to write. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I thought I learned to write.
Were you involved with the Rebbe in that process, or was that just the translation?
It all went through my father. When I pushed my father, first of all, to give out the shiurim, which had been given over the radio, to give them out big stuff. He was hesitant.
You were responsible for shiurim b'sefer Tanya to be written.
Wait. Responsible.
We could thank you.
So pushed him. He was reluctant. Finally, he gave it to Rebbe Heshke Dubravsky Olav Shalom. Heshke had a pen, so he wrote the shiurim in a literary way instead of a spoken way. Because the shiurim obviously were spoken. My father wrote them up as he's going to say them. So to take that and to make them like a sefer, that's what Heshke did. Heshke was a very painstaking, meticulous kind of person. Speed was not his forte. And patience was not my father's forte.
And what?
Patience was not my father's strong point.
He was a bar poil.
So once he got something going, it has to go. It has to be finished. So he got nervous with Heshke's work on the Tanya. So he asked me to bring it to print. It had to be polished. A lot of agos had to be translated, which Heshke had not done. A lot of work still to do. I took a look at Heshke's work. Wow. Beautiful. Every word polished like a diamond. And by then, my father was talking about giving the rest of Tanya besides Chelek Aleph to other people to do because they're quicker. And I said, no, you can't do this. Whatever you write is beautiful. So this is Ledoiris. Let him finish it. Unfortunately, he was in a rush to get it done. Not in a rush to get it done. He just wanted it done. So other people did the rest. Heshke did only Chelek Aleph.
The whole
But the Weile, I'm working on
the whole
preparing on the Likkutei Amorim, yeah. On preparing the Likkutei Amorim Shiurim for publication. So like I said, there were a lot of Marmakoimis that had to be filled in. There were Hagos from the Rebbe that had to be translated. Different things. So I worked on that right through the summer of Tovshin Mem Beis. Mem Aleph. Now, I was supposed to go on a shlichus then. Long story short, it didn't work out. War got in the way. So I didn't end up going. So once the Sefer came out in Yiddish, and my father saw it, the finished article, it was really a piece of work. So then I started pushing my father that he should give it out in English. No, my father's generation, English, Tanya, not so posh. But I nudged and I said, write in. So my father wrote in and he got a haskome and he went to work. And this time I wanted to be the one to work on it. I translated it. And then whatever I translated, I had edited by Uri Kaplun in Yerushalayim, also a master craftsman. And this took the entire year that I was supposed to have gone away in Shlichus. I stayed in New York, and I worked on the Shurim and Tanya.
Your brother was involved yet?
Hmm?
Your brother was involved in the writing yet?
No. The end of Mem Beis, I was appointed as a shliach to Johannesburg to run the yeshiva, which was just then being formed. So I saw that I'm not going to be able to manage to deal with the yeshiva, with the bochum, with the learning, and at the same time with the translation and the editing and back and forth. So I said that I can't continue, but my brother Sholem, who had already written several things for Kahos in English, so he took over from the middle of the Lamed. And he did it until the end of Likkutei Amorim. Then he went on, etc., etc. And that's why it's a joint project. But B'Shas Maitze, I didn't collaborate with him.
Whose is better? Who do you think which chelik is
Shaila. You know, and never mind the story. The question is here, who's interested in this? Is this for the benefit of your hearers or to satisfy Rabbi Bassman's curiosity, which is insatiable?
We have 5 more minutes. Tell us a little bit about Abonis, and we'll have to make a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4 because we have another 40 questions to ask you. But to be Messiah, what's your message for the Anash community? What
soundbite?
What would be the takeaway? Yeah,
you have to be Chassidic, and we have to follow the Rebbe. What my message for Anash? I think that my message for Anash should be that we have to become a Kehilla of learners. Many Yidden were niskarev through Verbringens. Many Yidden were nisgarev through Mitzrayim. And many Tmimim, their experience as Tmimim was being a Chassidic Beindel, Sipurim, and Pisgomim, and Nigunim, but lav davke horven and lernen. We need our Bal Habatim to be involved in learning, takemamish, not just chappenwerter, but takemamish learning. Because when the mind is connected with Torah, then gufe boser eish gorir, the goof follows the head, and the rest of you is involved in Torah dike life. But when you let go of learning, especially as a balabos, you become prost.
What if you never liked learning and learning's not enjoyable for you? What would your advice be for that person?
Learn until it becomes enjoyable.
Well, he's been trying that
Learning,
for 40. He's 42, and he's been doing that since he was 12.
No,
he never liked it.
He's been doing this day that yeshiva. He's been doing whatever everybody else around him does, which lav davke is masking for him. There is no one who will not have a gishmak if he does it in a way that masking to his neshama. There's no one who will not enjoy it and have a gishmak in it and live in it. So you need a guide, a mashpia, somebody who knows this person and can recommend how he can go, either min akal la kovid, because he never had the kal, or just something which taps into his own interests. And he has a fascination with robots, to learn about robots and Chassidic. Does a robot have a neshama? Could you install one? Catch something that's along his way of thinking and learn with him, and you'll see it's a pasmakavim. That's one message. The other message, when we chazer Chassidic, okay, this will be for part 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. It's much appreciated on behalf of the Anash community. And the Eibishter soll dir geben Yarech Yom Mamlachtei and with Nachas and Gesund.
Okay, Mashiach should take over the Mamlocha, and you should be matliach with your initiatives, which Baruch Hashem already being matliach, but they should go and grow, become of a come.
Amen. Yasher Kayach, thank you.
Thank you.
If you've reached this part of the video, you probably enjoyed it. Please consider donating a video or many videos. Help us continue doing these amazing interviews. Or you may do it in honor of someone, in memory of someone. It's all good. Hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next video. Hey there, do you know anyone that needs coaching? Or do you know someone that needs coaching? Well, you're in luck, because I'm starting to coach now. And first session is free. Yes, you heard right, free. You can get a taste of my style by my first few videos. It's pretty good. You can reach out to me at LevySocialHome.com, which is also found in the description.